The laugh track. That noise you hear after a joke that tells you, hey, it's time to laugh now. We've all heard it during our favorite comedy shows, but how did it get there, and why is it still being used today? To dig into the history of the laugh track, we have to go all the way back to 1946. American sound engineer Jack Mullen began experimenting with a magnetophone, a German-engineered machine, and one of the earliest examples of reel-to-reel tape recording technology. Bing Crosby used this technology on his radio show, opting to pre-record his shows instead of doing them live. It was on this show that Jack Mullen recalled the laugh track first being used. He's quoted as saying, "The hillbilly comic Bob Burns was on the show one time, and he threw a few of his then extremely racy and off-color folksy farm stories into the show. We recorded it live and they all got enormous laughs, so scriptwriter Bill Morrow asked us to save some of the laughs. A couple of weeks later, he had a show that wasn't very funny, and he insisted that we put in the salvaged laughs. Thus, the laugh track was born. You see, these artificial laughs from the very beginning have been there to help terrible jokes appear funny." Later, the first American television show to incorporate a laugh track was The Hank McCoon Show in 1950. Multi-camera television programs like I Love Lucy or The Ed Sullivan Show made use of a live studio audience, but producers noticed inconsistencies in their reactions, often laughing too loud or not at the quote correct moments. This is where sound engineer Charlie Douglas came in. Douglas would use pre-recorded laughs to supplement those of a studio audience if they didn't give the desired reaction, or he would gradually mute it if they laughed too long or too loud. This was called sweetening. Douglas went on to build a machine called the Laugh Box, which he loaded with reels of canned laughter. This guy had fake laughter down to a science, and when producers switched from multi-camera setups to single-camera videotape productions, Douglas's machine made him the go-to guy to make your shows have a laugh track. Throughout the 50s, 60s, and 70s, his work would be used on virtually every comedy show. Shows like The Beverly Hillbillies, The Munsters, and Bewitched. Even cartoon shows like The Flintstones and The Jetsons included a laugh track. The famous Hanna-Barbera laugh track was known for being inferior to Douglas's. In fact, because Douglas's services were deemed too expensive, sound engineers for Hanna-Barbera actually stole a few of his recorded laughs and remixed them for their cartoons. The laugh track would go on to be a prominent aspect in television sitcoms throughout the 80s, 90s, and into the new millennium. The impact the Douglas laugh track had on American television is pretty huge, but I feel it's had a negative effect on the quality of shows as time has gone on. One of its purposes was to make viewers feel like they're a part of the audience, because comedy was enjoyed communally back in the early days, but these days it's just not the same. At best, it makes a genuinely funny show feel dated.
Care to make it interesting?
Sure, how much?
And at worst, it feels like it's trying to trick viewers into thinking a terribly unfunny show is at least somewhat funny.
You'd think after Xbox, there'd be Xbox 2. But no. Next came Xbox 360. And now, after 360, comes Xbox One.
In the early 2000s, we started seeing sitcoms that didn't have a laugh track. I'm going to call this the golden age of television comedy. Maybe it's just me, but I think some of the best sitcoms of all time make no use of a laugh track.
I don't care. I'll start my own group. Rejection from society is what created the X-Men.
These shows are all smartly written, often hilarious, and they trust their audience enough to know when to laugh. You get an experience you don't really get with other modern shows that still use a laugh track. Shows like Big Bang Theory or Two and a Half Men. To me, these shows have an over-reliance on the laugh track to get viewers to laugh along. But what happens when we take the laugh track out?
You have lost so much weight. That must have been difficult for you because you were so fat.
Not very funny. But in the end, comedy is subjective, and I guess so are the merits of using a laugh track. And statistics have shown that laugh tracks work. So with that, I don't see the laugh track going away anytime soon.